Welcome back. Grace, you're muted.
Sorry.
Welcome back, people. I hope the session was interesting. The network is so bad today, so apologies for that. So I don't know which group I go with first, Grace. Do I go with the group of Eric?
Yes, you can.
Eric's group, what did you guys find out? How would you...
Eric had Nina and Brenda Kimbalazi.
Yes. What are your insights about this?
Thank you. From our group, as an NPPO official, what would you? What is your role on specific surveillance? So we all agreed that we need a strategic vision. We need to know where we are headed. If let's say we are going to be tackling Codling Moth, our vision should reflect what we expect the end result of the surveillance. Then after formulating a strategic vision, we talked about planning, and in planning, it would involve mapping out what resources we need, what legislation are we going to be acting in, how we shall handle data, what test we are going to target, what geographical boundaries, also communication channels, whom are we going to reporting to, also in collecting data, how are we going to handle data, how are we going to process the data, how shall we communicate the data that we've received. So basically that is in planning. Then of course after planning, we go into implementation.
Wow, nice, nice, nice. I think let's hear from group two before we make a discussion. Did the group, Grace had who? Is it the group?
The group had Mary.
Yeah, Mary, your group.
Yes. In group 2, we're trying to look at what we need. First of all, we need planning. We plan by gathering all the information that is relevant for the pest in question. The information could be from desktop survey or from other organization, and we also get this information in terms of the pest, the biology, the ecology, the distribution of the pest, the host plants, and how it is, which host plants it is affecting. And also we plan on how we are going to get resources for the work, including the vehicles, the funds for the work. And then there is also the technical staff, allocation of the technical expert who can be able to undertake data collection, and the actual data collection. And before that, okay, we have people, we inform people on the importance of this surveillance. And now the technical expert takes up the data collection. And after the data collection, then there's the analysis of the data, and also finally reporting to other NPPOs or regional PPOs or even the IPPC. Yes, and then on the why it is important to the country, we are able to establish presence or absence of the pests. We are going to also establish the extent of spread of the pest, the management options which are in place, and what needs to be done. I think I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you.
I think, Grace, before I throw it to you, I just want to challenge Mary. Mary, how will you settle or determine or identify which pest to start surveying? Because we won't just wake up in the morning and then you say, I want to focus on FCM, or let me give, like I want to focus on let's say, follow me one, or I want to focus on, let's say, I don't know. How will you decide on which pest you're going to focus on? How, and in what region? So for example, say in region X, I want to focus on pest, let's say pest A. So what makes you decide to focus in region A? That should be the first task. So how will you do that?
The first, how you settle on the pest of concern is
Yes.
by looking at the pest that has had problems, especially to the farmers in terms of export markets, or that which is bringing problems in terms of the earnings that we get to the economy. For example, currently we are talking of the first Codling Moth because it has been there's been several interception of the produce, and this has brought about loss of revenue to our country. You also look at the difficulties in management, how difficult it is for this pest to be managed. So the reports that we get from the farmers is important, and from that report, then we evaluate which pest has got a higher risk, and this way we can be able to now look at the best, the one to start managing.
Wow, I've been muted all this time. Sorry, Grace. I was saying that the first thing then it's before you start doing the survey, the specific survey, it's important to identify and recognize which pest you're going to focus on before anything else can fall in place. So the first thing is to know what pest is important for us here, which one is critical to focus on, and then other things can now follow in. And then I was throwing it to Grace now for the discussion, and then can move to the group assignment. So Grace, take it up in the next 3 minutes, Grace, max. Grace, you're muted. Grace,
I think
yes, you're muted.
Thank you for the reminder. I was saying that I congratulate both groups. Both the issues that they've raised are so pertinent, and they're actually similar. And I'm thinking that you first of all need to have a strategy. Well, what is your focus? What is it that you want to attain? And in this strategy, then our main focus would be on the issue of food security, on the issue of exports, access to export market, and then also, protecting our biodiversity. So that would be actually the ultimate goal that we want to focus. Then you can then turn down from the strategic goal, then you can come down to your planning, to your action planning. Then it is out of the action planning that you will now have all these other elements that you have, both groups have correctly pointed out. And this in fact is key. And that is actually the reality about specific pest surveillance. And I like the way Doctor has asked you participants about what would guide you to pick on a specific pest. There must be a guiding principle. First of all, that pest must be a very notorious pest, and it must be very destructive, and it must be, if you don't take any action, the cost of not taking any action must really be enormous for you to be able to, zero down on a specific pest, to do a specific pest surveillance on. Unless really anybody has other pertinent issues to raise, we could still move to the next. I just want to welcome Dorothy, Madam Dorothy Rambim on this platform. You're welcome. Feel free. If there's anything that you want to share with us, please go ahead and share with us. If there's anything you want clarifications on, you can still go ahead. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Grace. Then that now takes us the second part of the discussion of the training today, which is on review of assignment 4. Assignment 4, the group assignment, I'll be sharing my screen momentarily. There we go. this assignment required us to, was focusing on the elements, approaches, and application of the specific monitoring or specific surveillance or survey, which we discussed exhaustively on Monday. And so in this task, we want to leverage your experiences with phytosanitary measures as an NPP official to be able to demonstrate how effective designing of this surveillance and monitoring program have worked for you. So then you want to know how they have not worked for you. And then you want to compare this with the general guideline that has been provided for by the IPPC 2016. And so that was basically the task in this group. And so it's a task that we wanted you to draw your practice and experience and view that from the perspective of the general surveillance protocols and the IPPC 2016 guidelines. And so in this assignment, the first part was that you derive the steps for the design of an effective pest surveillance and monitoring program from your experience. And then you now help us understand how your experience on the designing of this pest surveillance compares with what is can I say, the book truth or the guideline that have been provided. And so we'd wish to know your insights and what you guys have found out. So I don't know which group is available today and that want to go first. So I'll take it to Grace to moderate this discussion. So Grace, take it on. So I'll stop sharing my screen. So if you're able to share your screen, kindly do. If you're not able, like I think some of us are.
Dr. Thank you. Just leave this on the screen for guidance.
Yes. So I think I don't know which groups are on. I will be leaving the screen a moment. Let me just check out the members of the team, just to be sure to know who should go first. Sorry, you're seeing my private data here, but it's okay. I just want to see the groups. Good. So with the grouping, I think I've seen Michael Mvere, but he's so muted and is not audible. So I think I go to the group of Mary, group 2, Mary, Brenda, and Ravi. I don't know if Ravi has been available to participate, but I would request Mary and Brenda Kebambazi to share with us their insights. So Mary and or Brenda, can you go, please?
Mary led the discussion. I don't know if she is available to share.
Mary, are you available?
I'm on the road.
Okay, just discuss. Don't worry about sharing your screen. Just share the insights. Don't worry. Brenda, look. Okay, go, Mary.
Okay, I will share on what we managed to discuss in this group. And the first thing on the step for designing the effective pest surveillance program is first of all to identify the pest of concern, and you establish which pest is more important. And this could be either by getting the information from maybe farmers on what is disturbing them, or the current trends of interceptions and notifications. And then once that is done, then a surveillance team is established, and this surveillance team will work on the pest information. And once the surveillance team does that, then they will confirm availability of required resources for the work. And then they will further link up with the county government and other relevant collaborating institutions so that they can organize teams based on the expertise. And then they will also organize for data collection, and depending on the existing environmental conditions, if they allow. And after that, there's the incubation, the carrying of specimen to the lab, the incubation, analysis, and finally report writing. And of course, these findings now will be communicated to the NPPO, that's reporting, and IPPC. And finally, teams will also agree on the frequency of monitoring of the pests. And how the experience on this design compares with the plant pest surveillance, we were not really very sure of this, but our assumption was that unlike where we have in the plant pest surveillance IPPC 2016, that most of the source of information of the pests would be from the NPPO, we realized that from specific surveys, most of the information on the presence of new pests comes from farmers. We also noted that sometimes the surveillance is not done promptly. The way the IPPC is structured is that like everything follows as a common structure. Immediately you identify the pest, this one follows and this other one follows. But in our case, we realized that challenges may come in, either resources, challenges in terms of resources, availability of people to do it, and so on. And this one is delayed a bit, so does not go as per what we found with the IPPC. But we also noted a lot of similarities in terms of implementation. What is done on the ground is as per what is indicated in the IPPC. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was very insightful, though you're on the road. The next group, before I invite Grace, is the group of Eric, Hussein, and Samuel, and Philip. And I am fearing that in this group, only Eric is existing. Eric, I've been working alone in this group. Eric, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
So just share with us your insights, not your group work, I know.
Okay, in a moment, please.
Okay, Grace. Sorry, Eric. Eric, you can share your screen if you're able to.
Fred, I might not be able to share my screen at the moment.
No problem, then just discuss.
Because I'm just in another engagement, so that's why I'm delaying. I had to a little bit work out.
Yeah, actually, you told us that, so don't worry. We understand.
So maybe I need.
Sometimes.
Okay, now in our group, yeah.
Yes.
Maybe I'll go for the first, the steps to design an effective pest surveillance for the country. And one of the things, the steps that we discussed is that we need to have a team. So a team needs to be composed. And when we are making this team, we should also consider the expertise that we have, other technical personnel that need to be trained so that we can have an effective surveillance monitoring. Then we also had the resource mobilization, because there's need of funds and tools that are necessary to undertake any activity of surveillance. So resource mobilization can also involve other stakeholders that need to be brought on board, the NGOs and FAO that still have an interest in what we are doing, who can also fund us. And the other thing was about the designing of a work plan, because you need to come up with a work plan on how and you're going to do it. The how you are going, the area that will be covered, the pest that you want to target, how you are going to collect your data, how you're going to do your sampling, collection of the sample, how you're going to analyze them in the lab, and also the meeting that you need to have for discussion, to discuss the progress and the findings in the field and what you've covered so far, so that you can be able to know whether your monitoring is bearing fruit or whether you're in the right direction. And then we also need to do stakeholder sensitization and awareness forums that need to be done for us to be able just to sensitize people to know this is what is happening, and for them also to be able to participate. Let's take, for example, that you are doing a monitoring of a pest like FCM in an area that is producing capsicum for export. If the stakeholders who are doing that production, they are not aware and they are not sensitized on the same, then they might end up doing something that is contrary to what you want to achieve. So that's why we need the stakeholders sensitization and awareness. Now, when it comes to our experience on designing for pest surveillance, if we compare it to the IPPC, that is ISPM number 6, then the guidance that we get from the ISPM is quite adequate, and also it gives us direction and it harmonizes how the activities are carried out. But despite that, there isn't much consistency in monitoring surveillance is still a big challenge due to lack of proper budgetary. Yes, we have a guidance, but do we have a budget that can be able to support all the activities that have been proposed, or the guidance that have been given for us to be able to achieve a good surveillance? So that one has also been a challenge. The other challenge is about the weather. Nowadays, the weather pattern or the weather patterns keeps on changing, and you might not predict how the weather will be tomorrow. So maybe you want to go and do the monitoring in a particular area. And when you go for that monitoring and you find that you are basing your argument maybe in a hot weather, and you find before you just go there, the weather changed and it's now very cold, you might not be able also to tell whether it's the weather that has affected the pest, or the pest has been reduced in that area. Now, the other thing that most of the surveillance that we do, if we compare to the IPPC one, we are doing mostly the detection and monitoring. The delimiting surveillance, we've not done so much as a region. Most of it we are doing is about detecting. Maybe you've had a report on it, so you want to go to the field and check. Do we really have it in the field? And the other thing, yes, if we have it, now you start a monitoring program for it. What is the extent of it in the field? So that's what maybe if we compare the two, what we do and what the ISPM guides us to do. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you so much, Eric, for that insight. I want to, and Eric, I really appreciate that you're working alone. It's crazy. And sorry for putting in a team that was not going to be there. So the other team is is Deborah, Monica, and Brenda. I don't know if any of you is in. I think all of you are in, right? So we want to go first. Deborah, are you going first?
Yeah, Deborah is doing the presentation.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, wait.
Monica, how
Deborah,
are you?
welcome.
And Deborah, how are you?
We are fine. Sorry, we joined late. We are.
I'm in a noisy place, please.
Karibu sana. Meanwhile, Grace, there's something urgent on your WhatsApp. Check it up. I'm texting you. Grace, check your WhatsApp urgently.
Okay.
Deborah, please come.
Hello, Deborah.
Hello.
Yes, Deborah can get you. Or I think Monica looks like Deborah's next.
I'm in a noisy place. I can't present.
Okay, okay. Monica, can you present?
Yeah, indeed, she's in a noisy place.
She is.
She can share the screen. We discussed and she said she submitted our presentation.
No problem. Just make a discussion, general discussion. No problem. Monica, do you think you can present as, or maybe Brenda Kisingiri can present something on behalf of Deborah, because she seems to be having network issues.
Okay, let me just.
Thank you so much. So allowed to share the screen. So stop sharing mine.
We have.
I'll stop sharing mine so you can share yours.
Okay, I hope I am able to share it.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Doc.
Welcome, Nika. Nika, look for your assignment for group work because you are next after Monica.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. Are you able?
Yes, we can see your screen.
See my screen?
You can see the screen of your phone. There we go. You are so technical. Thank you so much, Monica. Brenda,
are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Brenda, we can see your screen. Yes.
Okay. So, showing the various steps and monitoring program. And this is what we really talked about this morning, knowing the purpose of the survey. This is whether to gather information on an existing pest, to know the boundary of the pest, if it already exists, or to survey if the pest is present or not. I think we are determining the purpose of the survey. Then the baseline of the phytosanitary legislation and policies that is available. This usually helps us to give the team conducting the survey a scope and to avoid hindrances. Prioritization priority is always given to the trade by avoiding delay. Then we do the planning. Maybe I won't go too much in the detail. Who needs to know the reason for the surveillance, whether to check for the presence. In what we do, there's a signal. We've been doing exactly what the SPM recommends. Then regarding the need for prioritization, that is similar to the experience across our NPPOs. We need to make sure that we prioritize which surveillance to conduct and why, based on the background we have provided before. There's also a similarity in the fact that we we refer to the available national legislations to back our activity. There's also similarity in the programming of the surveillance activity, and definitely for any surveillance, we have to cater for, to make sure that we have the funds available, the logistics, and actually the collaboration. And definitely once we have conducted the surveillance activity, we need to report. So we realize that whatever we've been doing is also embedded in the ISPM. Thank you. I submit.
Thank you so much, Brenda. That was insightful. And thank you for managing to share your screen, in fact, from the phone. That's so great. Then I want to go to Nika. Nika, though you have come late, it's your turn to discuss with us your assignment, group assignment 4, which was focusing on, just to share my screen, which was focusing on the approaches, elements, and applications of specific monitoring, basically leveraging your experience to see how you design an effective surveillance and monitoring program.
Hi, Doc. Okay, I'm in the field. I'm trying to look for my assignment. But let me get into the car. Hello, Doc. Hello.
The dog must have eaten Nika's assignment. Nika, are you there? Okay. I want to throw it back to you, to Grace, as Nika sorted out a few issues to give us a general discussion about this. We were leveraging on the trainers' perspectives and views and experiences on phytosanitary monitoring or measures, and them as being NPPO, that explains from being an NPPO official in designing an effective surveillance and monitoring program, and how that relates or connects or compares with what is on the guideline of the National Plant Protection Organization, IPPC 2016 guidelines. And so maybe you could give us insights and how that compares, and then can move the next section. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, you can. In my view, all that all the groups have proposed are good, and you can actually collectively use them and be able still to deliver a better pest surveillance system in your own NPPOs. However, I'm also thinking that you need to be guided. The guiding principle actually would be, which actually still hinges back on pest surveillance. It would be what you would call, you look at the pest, you look at the perspective of these pests in your own situation. And with the guidance of ISPM 5, you can actually now tell whether the pests you are dealing with are non-regulated pests, or they are regulated non-quarantine pests, or regulated and quarantined. So if you had a pest list, if your country had a pest list, then you categorize your pests along that line. Then now it would refocus you on which pests you can effectively do specific surveillance. So it is from that now takes you into the planning process. And in the planning process, you would be looking at for an effective specific surveillance system, you would need to plan for a regime of surveillance. How often are you going out there to engage with the pests, to collect data on the pests? Of course, the regime, together with the methodology of the surveillance, you have also to highlight it. You also need to take into account the fact that some of these pests that we are talking about are seasonal. Seasons actually affect them a lot. I think Mr. Were also did mention this. So in your planning, you should take that into account when you go out to do a specific surveillance. Don't go out at a period when you don't expect actually to find that pest. And in your planning, take into account the geographic location where you would want to take this, where the national specific pest surveillance should focus on. So the geographic location could vary from one place to another. You might find a place is cooler, you might find a place gets rain at a time when another one is dry. So you take that also into account. And then whatever plan you have, remember that it is your responsibility for specific surveillance. Whatever plan you have, it doesn't hurt actually to share your plan with stakeholders, key stakeholders, particularly those also in the scientific arena. So to me, those are some of my thoughts that I am bringing forth to complement all the good points that you yeah, thank you. There's background.
Yeah, it was I've muted him. And also to add on that, what Grace has just shared, it is also very critical that the IPPC 2016 basically just as similar to other protocols is a generalized protocol. It is something that it designed to take care of the bigger mass, but probably your region could have some little disparity or some little variations that you just applying the protocol as applies may not always be strictly true. And so that's why at times may be forced to use your own experience and then to be able to support that pest surveillance. So at times the guideline provided may be a little bit off. So you don't have to follow it line by line. It is you to interpret it and then see how to implement it based on your scenario. So could be at times case by case. I would have maybe want to mention it. But thank you so much for your insights. And I'm really hoping that you have uploaded all these to the Moodle. So if you have not uploaded your group assignment for the Moodle, kindly do that. We checked this morning to grade them or to review them, and we didn't have much to review and we felt a little disappointed. But for module 3 and 2, so far good work, we really appreciate. So if you have not submitted this to the module, kindly, urgently do that. Now, Grace, from where I'm sitting, looks like I want to go to a Q&A session that should take us about 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll take a 10-minute health break. So participants, this is the last week, the last training, and we are super excited. So we afforded to get 5 minutes just in between the training to review what you have covered before we now focus on what could have been module 5, that is FCM Codling Moth. So any insight, any challenge, anything that captures on what you have covered, be it the general surveillance, specific surveillance, designing surveillance, all that could be interesting to share with us right now in 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. And Mangombe, if Inika, if you can hear me, then you could also tell us about how your group performed in a minute or two.
Hello, Doc.
Yes, Nika.
Yeah, did you get my assignment?
If you submitted today, then later on, like maybe from 10, then I would have gotten, I'll check, don't worry. But meanwhile,
no, I submitted yesterday. You did?
Yes, I didn't see it. I'll check again. Don't worry. If I don't see it, I'll get back to you individually. So don't worry.
Okay. Because I'm not in the office and I'm just having this phone, but I can't access it. How do I get to my unless if you give me some minutes, then I put it on another gadget, then I can just read what I prepared for my group assignment.
Okay, Nika, no problem, not a problem. Raymond, your teammate was here, but I think network has been a problem for him, so he's not able to join. We are hoping that he'll manage to join. So
no, I sent him the part of the work, but he has the group assignment as well, but I uploaded it myself.
Not a problem.
So I have it
not a problem.
Okay.
But trainees, do you have anything? A question is a QA session.
Hello.
Yes, Deborah.
I wanted a clarification. I wanted Grace to clarify for me on prioritization in surveillance.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other question again, so that I can pick all of them and then we respond to them once? Meanwhile, Grace, that question has been directed to you. It's yours to address.
The question is prioritization of surveillance.
Yes.
In surveillance.
Yes, anybody who cannot ask verbally, just type, I'll pick it up for Grace or for myself here, just type. So Grace, can you take over and respond to the question?
This question was raised by Deborah.
Yes, there's Deborah.
Deborah, it's about prioritization of surveillance.
In surveillance, one of the elements is it's on prioritization. I think I've not gotten it clear. Just wanted an explanation, yeah.
Okay. I think when you look at your responsibilities under the IPPC, there are quite a number. I think Article 4, as it's quite Article 4 has a number of paragraphs under it. And if you look at your responsibilities, there are very many. And in most cases, the decision-making body are normally policymakers. And remember that this is science. This is science, and science is a fact. And therefore, the fact that the policymaking bodies tend not to, or if they understand, they just turn a deaf ear. They tend not to understand, to prioritize scientific interventions. And the basis of development is actually on science. So looking at your obligations under the IPPC itself, surveillance should take one of the topmost priorities in terms of your mandates. It should really be prioritized in a manner that it has to, one, appear very clearly in your national legislations. It has to, it has to be supported both in terms of infrastructure and also in terms of the personnel that do it. And also make sure that the stakeholders whose livelihoods probably depend on, you are looking at stakeholders like exporters, like producers, begin to appreciate what it means for a scientist to come and look for a pest, and look for a pest to do what with, to control it, so that what they're producing is, you could say pest free. And if it has pest, then it has to be to a level that is low, that can be managed. So and unless we bring our policymakers to understand it, to understand the science behind it and the implications, it's going to be quite difficult, because even your superior can still be a scientist and still not prioritize surveillance. I hope I've been able to explain it a little bit better.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Grace. It's clear now to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for that feedback. So we are taking a health break for 10 minutes. So this is 3:12 for my end. For my end could be, I don't know, 2:12 if you are 1 hour behind me. So we are meeting back in 10 minutes time. So in the next, at 15:22, we are again here. And I would request that you use that time to fill the evaluation form, the training evaluation form kindly in the Moodle. And then I'll use that time also to check a few things on the Moodle that I may want to discuss with you guys when you come back. Otherwise, see in the next 10 minutes, our discussion in that when you get back is about false codling moth, and you're going to do a case study. So kindly keep timeless behind the next 10 minutes. Otherwise, if you have any challenge with us, can always talk to us. We'll just be sitting here waiting for you guys to come back. So see you then in the next 10 minutes. recording. So welcome back, participants, to second part of this training today. As we agreed, as I informed you before you went for a break, we are now looking at false codling moth as a case study, and this is a wrap-up to try to put all that you have covered in this 4-week-long training, actually 8 Zoom sessions, into perspective by giving an illustrative discussion or point, so that you're able to, if given FCM, how can we apply all the knowledge, all the discussion, all the skills that you have mastered or that you have learned into it. So Grace will be presenting this on the folk Codling Moth as a case study, and then after that, we will do a brainstorming, and so that should take us 25 minutes, and then we can now do a wrap up on that stuff. So Grace, welcome, and you can share your screen and take over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ari. Let me begin to share my screen. Hope it's that. Okay. I want to put it in the presentation mode.
Grace, I'll mute myself.
Okay. Oh, I want to be here and then. So, like Dr. Ari has already mentioned, our pest of focus is the false codling moth. We are trying to see how we can design and implement a surveillance program for the false codling moth. You know that this is a very notorious pest. So what you can see on the screen is the false codling moth at different life stages. So there you see the eggs, then the first instar larvae. These are the larval stages. And then when it reaches the 5th stage, the color tends to change. That's the pupae, and then that's the adult moth. There is another pest that looks very close to the FCM. I think the only fortunate thing with it is that we don't have it. We still don't have it on the continent. So for you to be able to establish that that's FCM, you would also need the expertise of people who do classification.
Grace, did we lose you? Grace, we can't hear you. Participants, can you hear Grace?
So they are just, most times they are laid as the very notorious.
Grace, we lost you.
She's breaking.
Yes, Grace, we had lost you kindly.
The network is bad.
Network is bad.
Because we also didn't get what she said. Did she say we don't have?
Yeah,
what is it?
Let me just ask her to connect. Grace, kindly, Grace, you are muted. Kindly unmute and then welcome back because we had lost you. And you know she's talking. Grace, can you hear us?
Okay.
Grace?
I'm unmuted.
Yes, we are not hearing you and we lost you at some point. So kindly repick it up from that screen on the images on the stages of the metamorphosis of the code of the FCM.
Okay.
Sorry for that.
You can see my screen.
Not yet.
Oh, then that means I have to share again.
Please do.
I have to share again. Just a moment, it's coming. So are you in a position to see the screen now?
Yes, we can. And you can now maximize it for us to be able to see everything.
I will. So we are saying that this particular presentation, we are narrowing down to sort of like design a surveillance program for false codling moth that we can implement. So it's just a case study like Dr. mentioned. So in the second slide, which I assume that you are seeing, you have the life cycle, the life stages of the false codling moth. So the eggs are here, and normally on surfaces on the leaves where the eggs are laid, they are laid as single eggs, each, not in batches, but each on its own in most cases. Then when it hatches into larvae, it has stages that it goes through. So sometimes, like when you're doing your inspection and you find it at this stage, it may be very difficult for you to tell that this is FCM, even if you found it at that stage. Maybe at fifth stage, you can possibly tell, fourth and fifth. And this is the pupa, and that's the adult moth. So I said that the adult moth looks very similar to another Lepidopteran pest. That particular pest, which I don't have the names right here, that particular pest that resembles the FCM, at the moment, we don't have it on the African continent, but you know that pests, come in anytime. So we have really to be on the lookout. And for you to be able to tell that this is FCM, you may be, you may need to seek the expertise of people who do pest taxonomy, pest classification. So if you can see this particular screen, I was saying that this pest, the FCM, is as its center of diversity in Africa, and in particular sub-Saharan Africa. So you see the African continent, you see the yellow, the yellow marks, that's where the pest is also obtained, is also found. And then Kenya has a widespread. Of course, I know that even all these other areas have widespread distribution. You can see the islands, or the African islands of the ocean still has it. So, and I also mentioned that this particular pest is found in Israel. So if you see that if it's moving to the Mediterranean region, there is also a possibility that it can still establish in Southern Europe, which also has subtropical climate. So, and this is why the European Union are so strict on commodities that harbor these pests. They really don't want to have these pests introduced. Sometimes they're intercepted and then they're destroyed. So you really, as producers, we really have to be, producers and exporters, we really have to be very, very careful. So the false codling moth actually affects a wide range of plant species. You see that capsicum is here, but it affects citrus, pomegranate, guava, citrus. Okay, citrus mentioned. Maize, cotton, avocado, quite a number of plant species. But of course, we know that we deal with this. Let me see what else. And now Kenya is going into the export of this. I know Kenya exports avocado, and I know even there are growers in Uganda that are going into mass production of avocado for exports. So we will again encounter this pest in avocado. I don't know the call that for the case of Zimbabwe. I don't know whether they grow pomegranate or guava. I know they have citrus, and maybe they export it, and therefore this pest concerns us hold. The pest is notorious in interceptions in trade, particularly capsicum to the EU market. If you check the Europhyte database for your own countries, you'll find lots of interceptions, and this pest doesn't, miss out. Apart from the documentation, you will find also this particular pest. So for you to be able to detect false codling moth larvae in capsicum, and in particular, if the larval stage is still very young, it's difficult once it enters the fruit. What it does, you will only see like small markings, like a point of injury on the capsicum, whereas the pest organism is already in the fruit. So the eggs, I did mention that they're laid singly, and they're also very difficult to detect, and they're tiny and a bit creamish or whitish, and therefore very difficult to detect. And therefore, when you're doing surveillance, you would need equipment, things like you know, a hand lens that can help you. You would also need like maybe a guide that gives you the exact pictures, and possibly also the measurements of the developmental stages itself. This particular pest, its life cycle depends on temperatures. When temperatures are high, then the life cycle is shortened up to 30 days. And then when it's very cold, the life cycle is lengthened. So for us, and this has a bearing on the way you design the surveillance program for false codling moth, because if the life cycle is just 30 days, that means in a year you can have 12 generations. So that can then have a bearing on how you are going to plan your surveillance. The pest has a potential to establish and spread in warmer subtropical climates of Southern Europe. I already mentioned this, and this is why the EU is so strict. So what then should we consider when we are thinking about designing a codling moth surveillance program? So the FCM surveillance program should have a strategy. So if we look at our production system, we look at, take for example, capsicum, the crop that we export. We want we may think of, you know, open space production, you know, the way farmers just go out there in the field and cultivate it, and they think they're producing for export. And also you may have production in confinement. So your strategy to be able to do surveillance on this pest is actually guided by your production system. Do you want a pest-free areas? We know that this is not possible. Pest-free area is impossible for false codling moth. And I think in one of the guidelines for capsicum production developed by Collier CP, it does gives you about 4 options, you see, and then the option of pest-free area is not actually an option. If you take, there are those 4 options. There is option C and D. There is a pest-free production site, which is this one, which is actually now production in confinement, which you now combine, even if it is in confinement, you know, like in a greenhouse or greenhouse. Even if a producer may think that the pest is not there, but you know, these are tiny pests, they can enter from any opening anywhere. So in that guideline, it's telling you that you combine this pest-free production site with another method of control in a systems approach. And I think there is an ISPM that mentioned systems approach. So your surveillance should be guided by this. Is it an area of low pest prevalence? But when you're thinking of area of low pest prevalence, still it doesn't work because the export market will not accept this. You are not going to export even a single pest. I mean, if it goes there, your consignment is intercepted and rejected. And therefore, it is this pest-free production site combined with a systems approach method. So you're guided by this. Part B, then you would have an action plan for FCM surveillance. The plan should contain the activities, what time of the year you want to implement it. Remember that because of the life cycle, of the shorter life cycle of this pest, where we are, it could be slightly different in the case of Zimbabwe. I know they go through a winter. It could be different. Maybe the life cycle of the pest is a little bit lengthy. But for us on the equator, Uganda and Kenya and possibly Tanzania, the upper part of Tanzania, which is hotter, it could be that the pest has a very short life cycle. So then you take that into account. You also look at aspects of data collection and management plan, and then communication plan. Remember, we did highlight this also in our discussions. An aspect that you would need to consider is the composition and mobilization of the surveillance team. Remember, you recall in these trainings, in one of the Zoom trainings, we did emphasize what the composition of the surveillance team should look like, so that it has, whatever you're coming up with has credibility, you know, people rely on it, people take it as truth, scientific truth. Then you need to mobilize resources and equipment and tools, because this affects a priority crop. I think our government should actually prioritize setting aside funds, including, remember also that we did mention that the private sector, who are actually the exporters, if you explain to them very well, and then they have a buy-in, they can actually apportion some of their resources into doing surveillance. So you need to bring them on board and talk to them, convince them so that they buy in. And then you also have the entire implementation process, plan for it. You need also to plan for how you're going to source your information. So if your survey is going to take you to different parts of your country, you then need to include other stakeholders, other leaders, local government leaders, for example, and then the communication plan. So all this, you know, for the first Codling Moth, the point that comes out clearly is the strategy. What is it that you want to? We have been guided that we can only do that in a pest-free area, I mean a pest-free production site, in combination with a systems approach. So all these that I've mentioned are more or less similar to also other pests in which you do specific surveillance. So when you're planning, you need to take into account of the importance of other host plants. There are also other alternate hosts. Remember, we said it has about 70 hosts that you know, it can affect. So take into account that, because you can have your confined area, and then your confined area is just, you know, surrounded by avocado plants or maybe cotton plant. So take that into account. Take also into account the production method. Is it under confinement or is it open field? And then the production season. Wet weather actually has an impact on most pest population, including this, because if it rains and the eggs have just hatched and the larvae are at the first insta level, you know, they could even die, and or they could even be washed away. So take into account when you plan your surveillance, what time of the season, what time of the year to go in the field and do the surveillance. Take also into account the decision on what type of surveillance to adopt. Are you going to do specific? Are you going to do general? In this case, it is specific, because what is guiding us, it is one pest, and the one pest is FCM, and therefore it's specific. So you also need to decide on what type of specific surveillance to undertake. Are you going to do a detection? Yes, you can say detection if the production is in confinement, because actually you could come to a level of 0 in confinement, and then you want to maintain that 0 level, and therefore you go routinely to monitor to detect whether there has been a reinfestation. But you cannot go out and say you're going to do a detection survey on false codling moth in a field crop. Remember that we are within the zone, the sub-Saharan African zone, where this pest is just living free. And therefore, detection in open field is not going to help you. Even delimitation may not help you in open field. What will help you is monitoring. So in under confinement and open field, so for confinement, it is detection if you had eradicated it and monitoring. And then in open field, it is entirely monitoring. And then you also need now to institute the specific surveillance protocol. We did discuss this in our earlier Zoom calls. The choice of whether to use detection, delimiting, or monitoring survey is determined by our production systems. I already mentioned this. It also depends on whether a regionalization of FCM in a production system has been established and how it is officially maintained. So remember, I kept emphasizing pest-free production site. The survey could also be used to determine the extent and means of disposal of FCM. Yeah, pests actually, their behavior is funny because you would find a place which has a lot more of their food. If their food is there in plenty, they will tend to congregate in such areas. And then they would tend to, and once they congregate and feed, they would breed. And once the population becomes again high, they would tend to migrate. So you also need to take this into consideration when you are doing your survey. So monitoring survey is more relevant when assessing population dynamics of FCM for decision-making on FCM management measures. So you see how you apply your monitoring survey. You want to decide to apply a control measure, or actually you're also doing monitoring survey because you want also to ascertain the effectiveness of the management measures that maybe a producer has already applied. So for FCM, monitoring survey is key. And remember, monitoring survey, you're looking at the pest population, pest behavior. So you see that this becomes now very, very vital. It can also be used to assess the effectiveness of a pest management. This already I did mention it. So the purpose for which you as NPPO undertake FCM surveillance is to know the status of that pest in a capsicum production area. So we all know that capsicum, this is a major pest of capsicum, but you might find that in confinement area A and confinement area B, the pest populations are quite different. The populations of FCM is quite different depending on the management practices that these particular producers are adopting and applying. So you as NPPO, you may also wish to undertake periodic surveys in relation to the pattern of weather. And therefore, if you are planning to take periodic surveys, it will now help you have that information that you can provide, that you can actually guide the producers, with. So your planned periodic surveys should be able to obtain you data that you can use actually for guidance, for providing alerts. So as NPPO, also take into account that you are responsible for alerting, alerting the public, alerting the producers, the capsicum producers on the status, on the trend. You can actually, with your surveys, you can actually almost plot a trend. When you link that with the weather data, you have weather data sometimes captured by research stations. So you need to bear that in mind. The ability of the NPPO to identify a target pest. If that ability is lacking, then you should, like we mentioned already much earlier, research institutions should be, consulted. They have that ability to identify. The scope of the survey, when you design FCM surveillance program, the scope of your survey should be known. The geographic area I did, all this I have already mentioned. Then the timing of the survey. So when are you doing it? How often are you doing it? At what stage of the capsicum plant are you doing it? So you also now, this then tells you that you need to know the biology of this pest very well. Once the capsicum is transplanted in the field, at what stage do you expect an invasion? So take note of the plant growth stage, and note also that pests are more happy to infest a plant which is young. So you should then time your surveillance with the growth stage, the plant growth stage. You also need to have considerations for the statistical approaches, like what would be your sample size, what will be your number of samples, depending actually on the area where you're doing this surveillance. If it is a small greenhouse, you would know, you would roughly know the population of the plants there. Normally in greenhouses, the number of plants are counted and it's documented, and therefore you know the number of plants there, and therefore you know a sample size and the sampling pattern and all that that goes into the statistics that enables you to come up with, you know, concrete data and concrete analysis. For FCM, I did mention that, of course, it's the larval stages, which is more destructive. And then sampling, if you're doing that, then you should take into account when the larvae are more prevalent. Remember, we said that already the rains, the harsh weather conditions can actually destroy the larvae. So take note of that. So what kind of survey methods are you really looking at? I already also mentioned about the detection survey. And you are doing this when you're not sure of the pest presence. And you're doing this when you also want to establish that the action that you took, that the producer took, is still effective. The pest management action that they took is still effective. Or if it is not effective, has there been again an incursion? So under detection survey, you can still use the pheromone traps. You can go ahead and do your visual inspection. And particularly for the leaves where the eggs are laid, you turn the underneath of the leaves. Pests normally do not lay their eggs on leaf surfaces. Normally it is hidden underneath the leaf. You can also do soil sampling for the pupetting stages. You can still go ahead and cut the capsicum plant and examine inside for the presence of the larval stages. It's a bit difficult to, like, if you only found the marks, you know, the marks which are actually like windows on the fruit, it would be a bit difficult to attribute it to the feeding of this particular pest if you did not find the larval stage there. So going by this, it's a bit tricky. But if you just cut open and you find it there, then you can do your scores. So you're also doing, the choice of monitoring, you're doing this if the pest is present and then you want to determine the population trends and life. So you are more or less using the same equipment that you're using in detection survey. So when do you then take action? Producers are advised, or the NPPO would take advisory action to the producers when the count is about 5 to 10 caterpillars in a certain area of the crop. And then when 10% of the plants examined contains eggs, you can actually also issue advice for action taking. The pheromone traps that are used trap adults at a rate of 1 trap for every 5 acres. You see, so this almost then explain number 1 and 2. So if it is you're using it 1 trap for every 5 acres, you can almost begin to gauge roughly what you are likely to get. You take action when 7 adult male moths are trapped in 1 night. So in the 5 acres, you can provide guidance for action to be taken when you are at that level of adults in the trap. What do we do now with the data that we obtained during the survey? So the data and any information that is captured during the survey is important and should be captured and stored properly. You can record this data in a recording sheet, and then you enter also in a relevant computer program. You can then process it for a number of purposes, including guiding decision makers on action to take. Also, you can, this data can also, once analyzed, it can provide information for advocacy to policymakers. You can use it to communicate and share the information with your stakeholders, or then also feed it into your national obligation data reporting system to the IPPC. You can record the data. Now, I think this is just a repetition of this. Ideally, it should have stopped here. So this is just a repetition that I didn't edit out. I apologize for that. So I think that brings us to the end of the first Codling Moth. However, part of that module was supposed to have come up with a mechanism of ensuring that you are actually telling the truth as NPPO that the pest is absent. Then how do you maintain this absenteeism of the pest? So I think this particular portion should then be open for discussion. I want to thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you so much, Grace, for that insight and that discussion. I think, and thank you for keeping time.
Oh, good.
Yes. So I think we are almost just at the top end tail of the discussion. We have 4 minutes to go. And in these 4 minutes, I would want to hear reactions from the participants. And if there's anything that basically your reaction in regard to this discussion that Grace has just presented. So I open the floor to you people. It's about, we are just 5 of us here, actually 4 of us. And Grace, in Kenya, there have been announcements on lockdowns. So I think most of people are really scared right now, and issue of yes, about 5 cities or 5 towns, they have been locked. So it means that if you're anywhere, you should get to your destination before midnight.
Yeah.
That could
be the reason. About coronavirus?
Yes, coronavirus. Now you're getting very high numbers of incidents.
There's again, whatever, what do they, a spike?
Yes, a new variant.
No.
Oh dear.
Yes. Do you have any reaction to presentation made by Grace on the FCM? If there's no reaction, then I will take a few minutes to walk us on the Moodle platform, just to know where you are in terms of your assignment submission. Though not most of us are here today, but I think I will share my screen. So here we are. So this is the first entry. So sequence 3.1, we have done it well, except Brenda. Brenda, you are here. You have not submitted your assignment. You have not engaged with the interactive content and attempted the quizzes inside. That is you here. Group assignment 3.
Actually, Dr. Frederick.
Yes,
Dr. Frederick, I actually did all of it, but I think the way I was submitting, there's something I missed. So I'll go through it and then submit at the end.
Kindly go and submit again. Thank you so much. And then I'm not in the Karo here, but I think group assignment 3 is done. And maybe assignment 3, which was due the other week, actually last week. I don't have an entry from Mary. Mary, kindly check it out. I think only yes. Individual assignment 3. Have you done it?
Yes,
I can't see your score here.
Oh my God.
Check it out, okay? And then for interactive book 3.2, I think Monica, I can't see any entry. It means that you have not done the quizzes in 3.2. Sequence 3.2, please check it out as soon as possible. And
hello,
then,
I was doing it and It was just erasing again.
No, you should normally submit unless maybe the network was not very stable. So just to do again.
Okay.
Don't worry. And then none of us has done. So I've submitted. Okay, I think this is me. We have not checked this out yet. Graded this because when we were online, nobody had submitted the work. So let's hope we check it out. But then individual assignment 1, Brenda Kisingiri, kindly. Kindly, yes. And then group assignment 1, I think that is well done. Then interactive content in sequence 1, module 1. Here I don't have entry from Brenda again, Kisingiri, kindly check it out. And then
really?
Yes, here it is. You have not interacted with the content. Kindly interact with it.
For module, which one?
Module 1.1, module 1, sequence 1.
Oh yeah, that was the same issue with module 1. I'll do that.
Please don't forget. And then for sequence 2, I think all of us have done a bit. Forget Eric, this is the guys, I don't see them, so I don't have to worry about them. And then sequence 4.1, I think this is good. Brenda has not done her part. And I think only Brenda. And then for sequence 4.2, I think only
1.4.
Yes, 4.2. I think Brenda, again, you have not done your bit. Can you drop that? And then 4.3 again, kindly.
Brenda.
Then
yeah, we've been very, very busy. We've been very, very busy here. But so, we will try to submit with time.
Okay.
But we are very, very busy.
Okay. For group assignment, individual assignment 2, I think that is done well. For interactive content, for module 2, Brenda again, and for module 2.1. So Brenda Kisingiri, you have a lot of work to go do, kindly.
Oh, but I did. I submitted too. I don't know, maybe I'm making a mistake because I've gone through all that material from module 1,
yes,
except module 4. Probably there could be something I am not getting right, but I've gone through all the material except module 4.
So try again to check it out that you're able to submit the assignment, because the post bit breaks. When you're done, submit.
2.5.
And then let me know if you can get a colleague to give you a hand. That's okay from your group. If you're not able to, then let me know, let Grace know to give you support. Interactive sequence, I think this is okay. I am here. Designing here. I think certain materials. A couple of guys, Mary, we check this out, and also Brenda and also Monica, go check this out kindly. Otherwise, I think we have done a good work so far. Oh, entry questions.
What is it? Sorry, Doc. Which one is this one?
That should be which one now? That should be designing what? Let me just check it out. Let me just check it out. I'm taking too long to retrieve it. Yeah, it is. No, don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. Just don't worry about that. As long as I've done 1.1, 1.2, that's okay. I think should be an error. I could talk about Codling Moth, that actually is in module 5. And then I want to take you to kindly do entry question. But now I will logic because
okay.
FCM case study. This is good, but then a couple of us have not. Seeing here the Nika, there is
which one?
This is case study.
Which one is this one?
This is case study for FCM. You'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just basically interesting content. Here it is. Under this module 5, you're gonna get it here, okay?
All right.
Yes.
Okay, okay. They've not done.
Then there's some assignment here. But the assignment, don't worry about it. FCM assignment, don't worry about it. We will, don't worry about, just focus on this, okay? And then you need to fill the training evaluation form. You need to evaluate us and see if you are good trainers or if you're a bad one. We will not know what you say, so just post anything so that you're able to help us improve the training for the next cohort of training. Yeah. Otherwise, we are so grateful that you gotten time to participate in this training. We will be online, I think, for the next up to about Tuesday, I think, Grace, because we'll be having the next cohort joining. So kindly finish your assignment by Sunday. Today is Friday. You have tomorrow to finish your assignment. And then we'll be grading all the one for week 4, module 4 and module 5, and then submitting these results to the CP for them to work on your certificates. And then from Tuesday, we will stop supporting your cohort. We will be moving to the next cohort of trainees. So you have this short time to engage us, and then we will be moving from WhatsApp group to another WhatsApp group. So otherwise, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It was amazing being with you and to share your experiences and to give you new perspectives in the NPPO pest surveillance. With that, I want to throw it to Grace to give a closing remark, and then we can be able to end this discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Our dear participants, we appreciate having been with you for 4 weeks now. We appreciate your very active participation. We know that we all go through challenges of this digital traverse, but at least you all kept your enthusiasm, and collectively we've managed to come this far. This shouldn't actually be the end of pest surveillance. We are available. You have our emails. We would wish that actually whatever knowledge that you've picked from this training, you are going back to share with your colleagues within your NPPO, and above all, put it in practice, operationalize it. And we also are of the view that you continue to advocate for pest surveillance in your systems, and that its profile is lifted high to be able to achieve our goal of food security, biodiversity protection, and trade. I want to wish you all a happy weekend, and keep in touch. People of the same, we're like children coming out of the same mother. So you don't separate for good. You keep in touch, please. Thank you so much. We are closing this session, and we want to wish you all the best in your career. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Grace. I think I will leave you guys to say bye to us, one word or two, and then as you end up this. But we are available. Grace and I are very available. You have our email contacts, you have our telephone numbers. Engage us. We still available to support you in any way possible towards adopting this, integrating these training concepts in your everyday operations. So feel free to engage us. We will leave the group open for some time. Let us know if you want the group open and all that, then we can able to move forward. We can always form a big group for all the trainees, just be able to make follow-ups. And so when you come to institutions, you can always see if you're doing a beautiful work that you discussed in the training. So otherwise, you can unmute yourself and just say us bye, at least from the word of mouth, and say 1, 2, 3 as you are going.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Dr.